Hi, I am A.F. Winter, and this is Confusional Arousals. I feel I need to explain my last episode. There was no introduction, no clever repartee between myself and my multiple alter egos, only a quickly written and recorded podcast. First, the title, 53 Days. Hitler became dictator in Germany in 53 days. Before Hitler took over, Germany was considered a democracy. To be clear, it was a young democracy set up after World War I, still in its infancy. But 53 days? Hitler gained control of the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judiciary, and then he was in complete control. Our president, for all intents and purposes, controls all three branches as well. Our founding fathers didn't want everyone to be on the same team. They wanted the government to move very slowly, with the parties battling with each other, and then eventually compromise so that all the laws move to the middle, if they were to pass at all. This is frustrating, I know, but in this way, the country could not be taken over by a single person. The founding fathers preferred inaction over tyranny. I visited Auschwitz in March of 2024. One of the near cities to the death camps is Krakow. In the Schindler Museum in Krakow, they documented how the Nazis took over the city. First, they rounded up the academics. They let the women professors go, but imprisoned the men. Then they shut down the press and rounded up political rivals. Soon there was no one left to speak the truth to power. If anything went wrong in the city, the Nazis would take a handful of these political prisoners, march them into a public square, and execute them, even though they had no connection to the event that they were being punished for. The Nazis wanted the public to know that no one was safe. Destroying the press was crucial to the Nazi agenda. We currently have a different method to do this. We don't shut it down. We oversaturate the public with so much information that the average citizen can no longer separate truth from fiction. I don't consider myself an above-average citizen. I get confused as well, and I shut down. Going for weeks without getting the news, I have, in essence, given away my power. This makes me less able to defend my beliefs against more vocal individuals. In my podcast, which I consider a radio play, it was a work of fiction. I don't believe we are close to that yet. But that reality is becoming one of the leading contenders for our future. Huxley said that men do not learn very much from the lessons of history is the most important of all the lessons that history has to teach. It is very clear to me that we are not learning the lessons of history. I think we are on the wrong path. I would rather be paranoid and wrong than paranoid and right. Other things to explain about that podcast. After the election, I had a thought about a man hiding in his frog, which is a finished room over the garage, watching as the world falls apart just outside his window. I don't really think that hiding up there would protect me from the world. But the character has so little that even the smallest hope is still hope. Throughout the story, the man remembers several times when he could have helped, could have spoken up, but didn't. Elie Wiesel said, "Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Remaining quiet doesn't protect anyone. Once the oppressor finishes with one person, he'll move on to another, because a person like that will never admit responsibility for his actions. It is always someone else's fault." The character attempts to find a reason for all this madness, but he also puts the blame on others, just like the oppressor. I would like to add to Wiesel's quote, "Not only does silence help the oppressor, but by being silent, we become the oppressors as well. We turn the victim into the criminal. We believe that the victim of a rape is responsible for the rape, because then we can deceive ourselves into thinking that the world is a just place." There are 2 dates in the podcast. March 14th, which would be Trump's 53rd day in office. April 23rd is Shakespeare's birthday. That has nothing to do with the podcast. It's just a weird coincidence, because about a month ago, I woke up at night and I had a feeling that something terrible would happen around that day. My sister reminded me that Hitler was born on April 20th. The man in the story grumbles about how the internet and social media have changed. It was always a tool of data collection, but we were naive. We believed that the web was a safe place. I don't think anybody believes that now, although we won't give it up. Why is that? Why do we keep participating in an activity which we know is harmful? Many of us are addicted to followers. We want more strangers to tell us that we have value. I am not above this. A friend recently told me that I needed to have a stronger social media presence if I wanted to sell more books. That is one of the reasons I started this podcast. I decided to accept all the friend requests that I got on Facebook. This is how I ran into trouble with the Far Side page. I should add that I started noticing all this trouble after Zuckerberg announced that Facebook would no longer be fact-checking its posts. The people I added weren't actually friends of friends. They were, as far as I could tell, just bots trying to get access to my information or influence me politically. I've unfriended many of these people. The character has all sorts of devious ways to remain unnoticed. They don't work, actually. The bad guys just haven't gotten around to him yet. So he watches his friends and his neighbors being taken away without saying a word. I'm sure that most of you got this, but the first, "They came for the Mexicans and I did not speak out because I was not a Mexican" section was referencing the poem by Pastor Martin Niemöller, "First They Came." I'd like to read the original, which describes what happened in Nazi Germany. "First they came for the communist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialist, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. And in fact, in my story, there was no one left. The only other thing that needs to be explained is the neighbor with the Chinese wife and loving. Interracial marriage in the United States has been fully legal in all states since the 1967 Supreme Court decision Loving versus Virginia, which decreed that laws against interracial marriage were unconstitutional. In my story, that decision was overturned, making mixed marriages illegal. We are not there. Yet. I know this is a rather depressing story. It took me a week to get over it, but it had to come out, so it did. I'm still not fully done with it, which is why I felt the need to record this explanation. Now, I am not hopeless about our situation. I think there is hope. And I'd like to end this section with a quote by George Orwell, who is well known for his stories of a cheerful dystopian future. He said, "Whoever is winning at the moment will always seem to be invincible. But we all know how fleeting invincibility is." Another thing I would like to talk about for a moment or two was the form of the podcast. In episode 2 of this series, I talked about Kraft's last tape and how I would think about my early episodes in the future. The idea of recording something that might outlast me, which details my struggles to make sense of the messiness of life, seems infinitely more interesting than anything I could possibly say in those recordings. Because as soon as I publish an episode, it is fixed and in some measure obsolete. I no longer believe that what I have said is absolute. But as I am recording it, the message is both truthful and meaningful. Words never have the same effect when you release them into the world as when they were rattling around in your head. Words seem like a trap for misunderstanding. Samuel Beckett in Endgame writes, "I use the words you taught me. If they don't mean anything anymore, teach me others or let me be silent." I don't know of any words that remain meaningful for too long. The Form of 53 Days is a radio play, a nod to Orson Welles' War of the Worlds. There's a scene, I think, right before the intermission, although I can't be sure. I used to teach the play to my students when we were working on a sound editing project, but it has been a while. So let's just go with that. Right at the end of the first act, a guy's at the top of a tall building in New York City broadcasting the news of the invasion. The aliens have just crossed over the river and released their poison gas, which is slowly moving through the city. The man keeps recording as the gas gets closer, powerless to stop it. Then the radio goes dead. And we know he is gone. That is the feeling I wanted to communicate with my story. The helplessness of the powerless to change their fate. The dreadful end is in sight, which cannot be stopped. In case you haven't figured this out yet, I don't have any idea what I'm doing here. To tell you the truth, I don't listen to many podcasts, but I have this forum, which is like a blank canvas, because I have no preconceived notions of what this should be. I want to be able to play with the form of this podcast. It is an experiment, an artistic investigation. A few episodes back, I read children's bedtime poems. This episode, I destroyed America. My purpose with this podcast is to find my own path in this relatively new medium. And I apologize if I get dark, but the recognition that neither I nor my world is perfect is not something to be ashamed of. We are all works in progress, and we need to look at reality truthfully, not as it is in our dreams. Yes, we should hold our dreams close, but getting from here to there is only possible when we know where we are starting from. As a writer, my job is to show truth, even if it is through a fictionalized story. Fiction allows us to look at the event objectively, but speaking the truth is not always easy. George Simenon wrote that writing is not a profession, but a vocation of unhappiness. I can't say that I disagree with him. I always need to touch those unhappy places in my life to gain an understanding of where I am now. Although, I have to admit, I enjoy going there. My pain is truly my own. No one else can experience my suffering the way I do. It is a delicious masochism that I can't get enough of. Hemingway said, "There's nothing to writing. All you have to do is sit at a typewriter and bleed." I guess I just like to bleed. And I don't need any help in that respect. Self-degradation is my jam. I am A.F. Winter, and this is Confusional Arousals.